Hello and welcome back to Open Source Workplace. I'm very happy to have Ken van Someren of Boost Cognition. Ken, how are you doing, sir?
Very good, very good. Thanks, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. So,
Good.
the last few weeks we've really dug into wellness, cognitive performance, how happiness impacts performance, and as we sort of think about the stress that people are going through at this moment in time, and sort of wellness, we sort of want to dig into that in this conversation. But before we get to that point, a sort of question that I wanted to pose to you is. As you look forward the next 12 months, is there anything that really excites you about those next 12 months from where we are today?
Yeah, interesting question. And I think, I guess what excites me is the opportunity that lies ahead for us to do things differently. And I'm sure, you and many of the audience would have seen, the 5 Rs that McKinsey and others have written about recently. And, particularly the phase of reimagine. And I think we have got a tremendous opportunity here to reimagine well-being, what it means, the importance of it, the value we put on employee and human well-being in the workplace. We have an opportunity to reimagine what work really is, what work is collaborative and therefore needs us to be with people to do it, and what sort of work is requiring focus and attention and therefore may be done more effectively whilst working remotely. And I think we can also reimagine the workplace itself and the built environment in which we aim to enhance both wellbeing and productivity. So I guess that's the one excitement I would have, the opportunity to reimagine work and workplace.
Yeah, no, it's great points, and sort of taking that thread that you mentioned about, the opportunity for wellness, and given where everyone is today, how do workers build those wellness protocols given the change of environment, sitting in the same, location, maybe different seats within their homes, but how do we sort of build that or allow people to build that wellness protocol for themselves?
Well, it's a really important point here, because I think, as I've mentioned before, again, if we're talking about opportunities, we have an opportunity here to take more control of our lives and work out how we develop our physical, our mental, our emotional well-being through physical activity, through nutrition, perhaps through better sleep quality. But very often it's easier said than done. And interestingly, what we're seeing at Boost is that when we talk to our customers and we talk to the employees within those organizations, some people are coping very well. The environment they have at home is well suited to them being productive. Their lifestyles are such that they can look after their mental, their physical, and their social well-being, and they're doing really well. But there's another group of people who are struggling, possibly down to the social isolation, possibly the disturbed routine. But two critical factors in this that are certainly elevating stress are firstly the uncertainty. So what is around the corner? We still don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know, as we just spoke about there, what is the future of work and the future of workplace. So there is uncertainty, and that manifests as stress. And whether we feel whether we can perceive that as mental stress or not, it is still imposing a toll on the body and the mind. And the other big thing that we're seeing through Boost with our customers is this phenomenon of always on and the mental exhaustion that comes with it. So, unfortunately, many people and many organizations are rolling through the days with back-to-back Zoom calls and conference calls. And this is incredibly tiring. And there's been some really good stuff written about why online video conferencing is actually more tiring than meeting face-to-face. So yes, we don't have the commute, but actually the energy it takes to engage and interact in that way is actually quite demanding. So all of this is manifesting as stress. And one of the things that we do is actually measure total body stress on people. And we can do this through heart rate variability. And whilst we might want to separate out physical stress of exercise and commuting and so on, and the mental stress of work pressures, actually the body doesn't distinguish between them. It is just strain And all of that has an effect on our well-being, our resilience, and of course, our performance. And if that's happening, then we're increasing the risk of fatigue. We're certainly increasing the risk of underperformance and reduced productivity. And we may well be running the risk of mental and emotional burnout as well. So really, really important that we address this. And the approach we take is, to improve well-being. Really what we're talking about here is improving our capacity to cope with the pressures of life, be they work, be they personal. And again, in my previous world of elite sports, a lot of that's going to be physical training and the mental stress of competition. But when we talk about resilience is all about giving us the opportunity and the wherewithal to be able to deal with the challenges, but then to be able to back off and take periods of recovery. A lot of people confuse resilience with, being able to constantly take the punches and just keep putting yourself under pressure. I would probably describe that more as stupidity than resilience. Just standing there and taking the punches is not going to be effective. And what everyone needs to do, be it from, elite athletes through to, corporate CEOs, through to employees across the board, we need to look after ourselves. So how do we do that? Well, there's probably a couple of dimensions I look at. Firstly, there would be the mental and the emotional side. And we can probably summarize this as purpose, optimism, and motivation. And we've spoken before, I know, about having purpose is so critical in life. And without getting too profound about this, keeping this tailored, the discussion focused on workplace, it's incredibly important that we have purpose. Now, unfortunately, not everyone derives huge amounts of meaningful purpose from their jobs. But what will certainly augment that is the interactions they have with people when they do those jobs. And of course, that's been taken away from many of us at the moment, that social interaction and that social cohesion. So we have to work very hard on ensuring that we do have personal and professional purpose. We need to be optimistic. We spoke last time about happiness and describing happiness. It's not just this fluffy, nebulous concept. Happiness absolutely underpins our health and performance. And even the most unhappy looking and seeming people in the world can become more optimistic and can become more positive. And there's some brilliant work coming out of positive psychology and the science of happiness, where with some very simple strategies of practicing gratitude. What are we grateful for on a daily basis? What are we looking forward to? Practicing kindness. All of this can actually improve mood and happiness within individuals. And then, of course, motivation. So if we can enhance our purpose and our optimism, well, that will undoubtedly enhance our motivation as well. But again, the strategies we can put in place there around, well, rather than thinking about these long-term targets that might seem particularly abstract at the moment, break it down week by week, day by day, and very much thinking about performance as a process as well as an outcome. And this is really important for motivation. And I don't know if I've spoken about this before, but for athletes and elite players, performance is as much about the process as it is the outcome. And you will often hear the best coaches in the world talking about, we look after doing the best we can, and the result will look after itself. And that's very much that's very much the approach that we can take here in terms of our well-being also. The other approach I would take to well-being, and the approach we do take at Boost, is perhaps the more physical side of well-being. But of course, we know that our physical health and well-being have a massive impact on our mental health, and of course, our ability to sustain the knocks and the hardship when it does come. And we can simplify this really nicely into move, eat, and sleep. Physical activity is paramount. And there's two dimensions to that. One is, how much physical activity do we take for health benefits? But there's also ensuring that we're not sitting inactively during the day for 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours on end. You know, we have to get up and move about. This promotes blood flow to the brain, it improves our sense of well-being, and it does have quite profound health benefits as well. Eating. I think most people know what they should be eating, but how well do we do it? And what I would layer on top of that is, you know, our focus at Boost is in part, how can we optimize nutrition, not just for well-being, but to actually get the brain being most productive? So how can we improve our focus, our ability to pay attention and not become distracted? And the third element of that dimension is the sleep. Most people are not getting enough sleep, or if they are, possibly not good enough sleep quality. So some long answers there, but in a nutshell, how can people, you know, develop a toolkit for their well-being? I would go back, you know, look at purpose, optimism, and motivation, and think how much and how you move, eat, and sleep.
Ken, wow. It's I'm just sitting here. I had so many questions and my mind's just going racing now because you just covered so much there. Thank you so much. And I
Well,
promise you next week, we're going to go through a lot of these different things because there's so much you covered here. And honestly, my brain is spinning. So I appreciate it, man.
Well, and I'm sorry, I sort of threw all this
No,
out there, bit of a monologue. I didn't really give you a
no,
chance to jump in, but
it's great. No, and it's fine because in essence, everything just was so succinct in your whole thought process. And we will certainly unpack some of this next week because there's
yeah.
so many things I really want to come back to and sort of, you know, there's so many things. So look, mate,
Oh,
I
no,
appreciate
that'd
it.
be good. Let's do that. You got me on a topic I'm passionate about, so
I
hence the
know.
barrage. But no, let's
That's good.
follow up and dig into it further. Brilliant.
Great. All right, man. Cheers. Speak to you soon.
Okay, thanks a lot, Steve.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.